Hello guys, Oscar Hotel 8 Sierra Tango November Julian here for Off Grid Ham Radio. Today we're talking about a combined cross-training, ham radio communications, marksmanship, and fieldcraft. Admittedly, the idea of combining communications, fieldcraft, and marksmanship has been on my mind for quite a while. I've just been reluctant to combine these activities on the channel. Anyway, stick with me, and I'll tell you how a weekend trip to Puolanka, Finland has helped me become a better field radio operator while hammering in the importance of not being a one-trick pony. Alright guys, let's go. Cross-training, regardless of our individual mission objectives, helps us develop a wider set of skills, leading to greater mission success. It doesn't matter if we're talking about preparedness, it doesn't matter if we're talking about search and rescue, emergency communications, or any number of skills supporting your mission objectives. Whatever your goals are, cross-training seems to be widely accepted as a win-win by the community. My primary skill sets are related to HF data communications and off-grid power. I'm also a pretty decent drone pilot, and I've got exceptional dog handling skills. Now, no one wants to end up being a one-trick pony, so it's important to augment our skills in areas where we are lacking. Now, each of us may find our deficiencies in different areas. Since the world is what it is today, I tend to focus on improving skills which will help me be self-reliant and survive. Now, some of these may seem ironic, but I'll go through them anyway. HF communications, navigation, marksmanship, and survival. Now, during the 24th, 25th, and 26th of October 2025, my buddy and I spent some time out in Puolanka, Finland, participating in a knowledge exchange of our primary skill sets with one another. During this 3 days, my goal was to explain and demonstrate HF communications, as well as the benefits of HF communications for groups whose location is widely dispersed throughout a region. I would also demonstrate some of the tools we use in ham radio for wide area data communications, and the difficulties we can have with choosing the correct antenna configuration for the desired region we're targeting. Now, one of my other goals was to demonstrate the capabilities of a 10-watt HF radio with a simple end-fed half-wave wire antenna. For this trip, I chose the Lab599 TX-500 mic Papa. I used the November 9 Sierra Alpha Bravo end-fed half-wave antenna, a Microsoft Surface Go 2, and an Anker Prime 250 power bank, which I used to top up the Microsoft Surface Go 2 and the TX-500 mic Papa. For data communications on HF, this is a very lightweight and capable package. I carried the Microsoft Surface in a chest rig admin pouch, while the HF radio plus its antenna and cabling were all carried in another single pouch. This lightweight kit goes back to the minimize gear, maximize capability concept we introduced on the channel so long ago. Now, even though from a communications perspective I was supposed to be the instructor, the event wasn't without its problems. Now, what I didn't know coming into this trip was that the cabin we'd be staying at was in a valley surrounded by foothills. This meant no line-of-sight communications, and getting our signal out of that valley would be a challenge. Now, one of the lessons this trip forced me to relearn about HF communications was getting outside of my comfort zone during training. The mistake I was making was repeating drills which I'm already fluent in, rather than challenging myself with new modes, new locations, varying geological challenges, or basically staying comfortable rather than throwing myself into the fire. This cabin, surrounded by foothills, definitely threw us into the fire. So the first lesson was recognizing that the antenna configuration we initially deployed was ineffective. And now we needed to challenge our understanding of antenna configurations and HF propagation to find and deploy the right antenna configuration to get us out of the valley. So we started off with an NVIS configuration. We then moved over to a dipole, end-fed half-wave horizontal at various heights, dipoles at various heights, but ultimately what worked was an 80-meter sloping end-fed half-wave, shooting an azimuth of about 300 degrees north-northwest. Now once we had that antenna configuration dialed in, Winlink worked flawlessly. This meant I was able to send and receive a series of messages from some of my buddies on X. Wyoming Survival Tony on X Super Freaks and Kilo 4 Kilo Hotel Oscar, Metro Atlanta Ham Radio on X. Please give those guys a follow and let them know how you found them. Now receiving these messages was a massive boost in motivation. I mention this because we rarely hear people talking about how uplifting it might be receiving messages over the radio. In an SHTF scenario, reading that message coming in over the radio can make the difference between us feeling hopeless or coming to the realization that although they're not in the room with us, we are anything but alone. So the point I'm trying to dial in here is HF communications allows us to reach out beyond line of sight communications to those team members or group members we can't reach with VHF or UHF. And we're doing so without deploying any repeaters or additional infrastructure in the field. Alright guys, just a quick plug for myself. If you like the content I create and you like what I'm doing, please consider buying one of my books. Alright guys, let's continue. In addition to running Winlink sessions throughout the entire time we were at the cabin, we also ran some JS8 with JS8 call. Now, although JS8 call is excellent, I did little more than getting myself on the network, having a couple of QSOs, and then moving on to FT8. The reason for this was the sheer number of stations available to us on FT8. Now, from a survival perspective, FT8 is absolutely useless. But from an antenna testing perspective or propagation perspective, FT8 is absolutely magnificent, and that's how I use it. In the lower left-hand corner, you can see the first reports coming in on PSA Reporter. Again, we're running 10 watts from the TX-500 mic Papa. I've got an 80-meter in-fed half-wave antenna from November 9 Sierra Alpha Bravo, pointing 300 degrees north-northwest in a valley. I thought to myself, -9 to Nova Scotia isn't bad, but it did get better. So, by the time I ended my FT8 sessions, again with 10 watts and an 80-meter in-fed half-wave antenna, I had made FT8 contacts in Canada and the United States, as well as throughout Scandinavia, Europe, Iceland, the Near East, the Far East, and throughout Asia. My goal was to demonstrate the benefits of HF communications and its efficiency compared to VHF and UHF communications. I think we actually did that. Now let's take a moment to listen to my buddy Mikko. He's going to give us his reaction about the performance of our HF communications over those few days.
Okay, hello. Yeah, I had a fantastic weekend with my buddy Julian in Puolanka. We had some field testing there, and I was very super amazed about this, that with only 10 watts you can reach so huge amount of countries, and the distances which we were able to connect, it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. I have been in a army in Finland, in not the radio but on tele side, and we had a little bit different antennas, very huge ones, and still we couldn't be able to connect to just 20-50 kilometers, but this was just different technique, and with 10 watts and such a amazing antenna, that was also that it was pretty easy to set up, and just a cable there, and then you have a possibility to connect such a large area. That was the most incredible thing which was there during that weekend. It was amazing. Yes, thank you.
Now, over those few days, we also invested some of our time at the rifle range. This range time was important because Mikko, my buddy you just saw, he's not only my friend, he's also my optometrist. He's also the person responsible for the rigid contact lenses allowing me to see, make videos, and get back on the rifle range again. So I didn't know it at the time, but he was actually testing my eyesight. He wanted to see if I could punch that target consistently as I used to do before I partially lost my eyesight. I had no idea what Mikko was up to when we were at the rifle range. I thought we were there to test the FX True Ballistic Chronograph with the Sako 75 and 22-250. That's why I wasn't recording my hits on target. Instead, I had my camera equipment set up to record the Sako 75 and the FX True Ballistic Chronograph. Now, the practical goal here was testing a box of store-bought match ammunition. We wanted to measure how consistent this store-bought ammunition was compared to the hand-loaded ammunition we're making at home. Moreover, we wanted to make sure the FX True Ballistic Chronograph would be able of measuring supersonic ammunition. The FX True Ballistic Chronograph performed extremely well. It was absolutely magnificent. The supposed store-bought match ammunition was garbage. Look at the spread here. So just to explain my hits, I was shooting right to left. First 3 hits on the right target before I got comfortable, and punch center mass on the second and third target. To be fair, I pulled those first 2 shots anticipating the kick from the 22-250. Anticipation which was actually ridiculous because I believe this was the best rifle I've ever shot. Now, if HF communications was my primary skill, I would say hunting and fieldcraft would be Mikko's primary skill. The black grouse, this bird, it likes to get out around dawn and start calling, hoping to find itself a date. That meant we were out there before dawn, hiking through the forest, hiking through the swamp, until we found the place to make our hide. There were a few different objectives. Firstly, get me comfortable with the swamp. This was important because without being comfortable with being uncomfortable, I wouldn't be able to take that shot and harvest one of these birds. And quite honestly, it was a miserable experience until we did just that. We harvested one of those birds. Now, it's important to be careful about what we show on YouTube. So rather than showing the field stripping of this wonderful bird, let's talk about what I learned during this hunting trip. Understanding where you need to go and how you get there. We had to hike through the forest, we had to hike through a swamp, then we had to set up a hide and stay there, remaining warm enough and comfortable enough so that if and when the time came, we'd be able to take one of these birds. Equipment is key, patience is critical, and the ability to stay calm, even when you're uncomfortable, is the difference between being successful or not. Depending on how our overlords react to this video, I'll come back to the hunting aspects of fieldcraft the next time we're out in the field. For now, let's close down this video by going through some of the feedback I've received from some of you. After teasing the release of this video on social media, I started to get some feedback from some of you who said, hey, if we're talking about cross-training, we're actually missing a few things. I would say overwhelmingly, community building or team building would have been first on that list. Now, we didn't talk about it in the video specifically, but in fact, that's what Mikko and I were doing. Exchanging knowledge, sharing our skill sets, and learning how to work together in the field. Now, team building is kind of that all-encompassing thing that tells us what we should be doing, but there were some runner-ups. Homesteading was only second to HF communications. Then we had first aid, marksmanship, navigation, drone piloting, and our ability to move within the environments we're operating in. And actually, I couldn't agree more. All right, guys, we covered a lot of topics in this video, and I think we'll just go ahead and leave it there and see how YouTube handles it and what kind of feedback we get. So with that, I say, if you like what I'm doing, if you like the content I'm creating, please let me know by leaving me a comment and or a thumbs up to let me know. And if it's not too much to ask, and this is actually the most important part, please share this video with someone or someplace where other operators might enjoy it. Also, happy 250th Marine Corps birthday. Semper Fi, guys. All right, rock and roll, guys. Thanks for watching. Ciao.